Okay, for this one, we're going to be doing a quick cutout for an item that already is on a pretty clean background. So if you can see on YouTube, there are a few little dusts, particles, and things around like that. And I'm just going to use my spot healing brush left over from our last tutorial to clean those up because, believe it or not, it will make creating a cutout a little bit easier. So I'm just going to go through and kind of get rid of those just real quick. Shouldn't take more than a minute or two. And then we'll move on with the rest of the exercise. All right. So that's pretty clean for our purposes. So why don't we go ahead and move on with the actual cutout. So there are a number of ways we could do this. We could use up here in our fourth tool down, we could use the quick selection tool to sort of paint over the object we want to cut out, and that's a very effective technique. It can take a little time. So we could use the magic wand tool, but it looks like our background is a little noisy, and so we might have to do a lot of adjustments to get that straight. So we're probably going to do like a combination of things. So I'm going to deselect this with the Command D, and I'm going to go to the one tool we haven't talked about yet, and that's the object selection tool. And basically, this is just Photoshop going one step further to try to make our lives easier by having kind of a one-click cutout tool. And pretty straightforward. We're just going to draw a box or marquee around the object we want to cut out, and we'll let Photoshop do its magic. And we'll see what happens. Okay, so here we go. And what it does is it, at least with the settings I have in place right now, is it does a pretty good job of selecting the outside of the image. And it even gets into the chain a little bit up here. But what we want to be able to do is also get rid of the interior volume here. And we're going to do that with the quick select tool. And if you look at the quick select tool right now, it has a little plus. Let me see if I can zoom in. It doesn't look like I can right now, but there's a little plus in the middle of the marquee, and if I hold the Option key down, that will shift to a minus. All right, so with the Option key down, if we click in this volume, that will sort of sample this and subtract it from the selection. All right, so pretty straightforward. Now, to have the ultimate control over our selection, what we want to do is go up here to the select and mask button. Now, if for some reason that's not showing up here, you can always find it under the select menu, and it will be down here under select and mask. Okay, so the way we work with the select and mask menu is we basically go from top to bottom, trying to figure out, or basically trying to develop as good a preview as possible. And I got to say right off the bat that this is not too bad for our purposes. So usually what we want to do is start off with a background preview mode that's going to match what we're going to try to do with the ultimate cutout. So in this case, if I were going to put this on a dark background, I might select a black background and take my opacity all the way up to 100. That way I can see if there are any little highlight flares that are showing up too much down there. So working down, I could go with a smart radius. That's just adds a little bit of intelligence, and bump up the radius to say like 2 pixels, and we'll see if that has any effect. Maybe that gets rid of a few little highlights. Smoothing is sometimes helpful, sometimes not, depending on the way your cutout's going. If you do have a few little highlight points showing up, you can always take your edge and shift it in a little bit. And what that'll do is kind of choke down your selection a little bit. And that's a pretty sure way of getting rid of highlights. So once you have your preview looking the way you want it to, The last thing we're going to focus on are the output settings, right? And the main thing we want to look at here is the output to, right? So if we leave it at selection and hit OK, then we just get a refined selection. But for our purposes, what we want is a new layer, right? So if we click on that and then hit OK, what that does is it creates a new layer with our cutout on it and retains the original image and turns it off. So you can see that we can turn that on and off. And now if we wanted to, we can just take this layer, copy it, paste it onto a different background, so on and so forth. So that's a pretty straightforward way of putting together a simple cutout. And we're going to use that in our next exercise too. So hang on, stay tuned, and we'll get going on that pretty soon.